Quran, wherever you find the mention of Shu'aib alayhi salam, you find the ayat such as Awful Kayla wal Mizan. Oh my people, be truthful, be honest in your dealings. Don't cheat, don't deceive. And the third, Salih alayhi salam, that his people did not want to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said, we don't believe you. We don't want to believe anything that you say. And they said that we only believe you when you bring a camel outside of this mountain. Imagine such a adawa and so much hatred that they have, and they're asking him to do something impossible, that you take out a camel from this mountain and we will believe in you. And through the miracle, Salih did that also for them. But he put some restrictions on him. He said that this camel is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are not to, the water and the food is going to be divided because resources were less. And there's a long story that they went and they killed that same camel which is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them also. How does this relate to us? SubhanAllah, if you look in our times, especially in this country, the act of the people of Lut is rampant. And not just non-Muslims, but the Muslims are involved in this. And our generations are going into this. And wallahi, it's sad. And we can have a whole seminar and a discussion on what we can do to save our children. But the fact of the matter is that it's happening. I don't want to say a specific institution, but when I was studying, we had some students. This is Muslim students studying the Quran. They're in the hifz, they're in the school, and they realized that we don't want to be here because we can't do what we want, and they went away. And then they got involved in these relationships. Disgusting. The mind gets filthy. And now he's coming, after I finish, he's coming to me and he's asking me, so look, this is the case, my parents disown me. I feel like this. What am I supposed to do? This is people that are children. I'm not even talking about people who don't come to the masjid, who don't pray salah. These are practicing Muslims. And it's creeping in day by day, more and more, into our generation. What is one way that we can combat them? Is connect them to the madaris and the masajid. That's the only way. Until we connect our children to the maktab system, that they go to school all day, they get drilled with LGBT propaganda all day. They get drilled with feminist propaganda all day. They get filled in and drilled with mottos like, do what you want, be what you want. You know at heart who you are, male or female, whatever you want. Right? If our children are listening to this, and our nieces and our nephews and our grandchildren are listening to this day in and day out in school, and there's nothing to counteract that. There's not even 5 minutes in a day to explain to them that no, this is not what our deen is. Our deen is this. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is this. You are a Muslim. Be proud to be a Muslim. Until that's not done, we will keep sliding into the dhalala. So it is something that every single person needs to wake up and worry about. Many times we think, somebody else will worry about it, or the sheikh will worry about it. No. It's up to every single Muslim to have this pain in his heart that these are all our children, right? Our communities are children. It's not my son, my blood son, but it's still our children, our community, our daughters and our sons. So every Muslim should have this pain, especially living in this country, that we need to do something. We need to change the environment. We need to change the mindset. That where are they going? Right? And as I said, inshallah, this could be a long session about what are some ways that as parents and us as a community we can save our children, and what are some ways that we can deploy to counteract what is going on in the schools, right? So this surah, subhanAllah, the first Qawmi Lut mentioned. Number 2, Awful Kayla wal Mizan. Shu'aib alayhi salam telling his people that don't cheat and don't deceive. What is going on in the market today? What is going on in the business today? In Urdu they say, like, how am I supposed to feed my children if I don't deceive? Right? There's no other way to do business, right? And it's very hard. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood it was very hard, right? That is why he gave such a big rank for the person who doesn't cheat. He said, "At-tajiru as-saduqu al-amin ma'a an-nabiyyin was-siddiqin wash-shuhada'i was-salihin." That person who does his dealings fairly, it's very hard to step on the nafs. I can make so much money of you. I can deceive this person, make him a big fool. He won't know what happened to him. But I sacrifice that want and that option for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, "At-tajiru as-saduqu al-amin." That truthful and that honest businessman, that honest person in his dealings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him up in the same ranks as the anbiya and the people who have died in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the rank for that such a big sacrifice, right? And the third thing, Salih alayhi salam is mentioned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one of the hikmas, one of the wisdoms behind mentioning this story is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, again this was a Makki surah, right? In the time of Makkah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had this great pain in his heart. Right? These are my people, these are my brothers and sisters, these are my cousins, these are my family members. Right? And I'm trying to explain to them a simple message that believe in one Allah and let go of these idols and this darkness that you're in. Come back to the light. Come back. Believe in one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I know we can't feel it because we are not in it. Right? But there are people who feel the pain. Just imagine, put yourself in the shoes of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That day and night, all he's thinking about is how can I take them out. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a consolement brings him stories. That, O Nabi of Allah, O Habib, that these mushrikun who you're killing yourself over, there was people like them who came before. And they asked for something impossible. And I did the impossible and they still did baghawa. Right? Your job is just to warn. And then hidayah is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To the extent, imagine when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's a boy. And he's 6 years old. And he's traveling with his mother. And he's going in the desert and she dies while traveling, not even at home. Imagine what that child went through. Imagine what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went through. That he's traveling and there's one helper and his mother. And something happens and she's in her last breaths. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is holding on to her. And she said, why are you leaving me? And she said, كُلُّ جَدِيدٍ بَالٍ وَقَدْ وَلَدْتُ طُهْرًا. That, oh my son, every single thing has to go one day. But I gave birth to you. Right? And then she passes away. And I don't know how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and that woman who was with them grabbed the rocks and buried his own mother. Right? And then the Mufassirun write that he was holding on to the grave and he did not want to leave. And he was crying. He said, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me alone? His father's already gone. He has no one. He has no brothers and sisters. And his father, and there's nobody. And he's holding on to the grave. He said, why did you leave me? And he's crying and he's weeping. To the extent that his pain was so much that many years later, almost the 9th or 10th year of Hijri, when Rasulullah was 45, 46 years old, the Sahaba, they narrate that we were traveling and Rasulullah went off the course. Right? So the Sahaba are confused. We're supposed to be going this way. Where is he going? So some Sahabi went behind him and they found that Rasulullah was in a place, Abawa, where his mother was buried. And at the age of 47, so many years have passed. He was sitting like a baby and he's crying and there's sounds coming out of him. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. There's a 4 downstairs, Virginia plate, TYL 3870. The brothers are trying to leave. Jazakumullah khair. So going back, this is the pain that he went through. And then he comes to Mecca. And then he's in the care of his grandfather. There's a long story. He takes care of him. And then he also passes away. And then who's left? His uncle. His own sole provider. His own, the one who's looking after him. The one who's protecting him from the mushrikun. The one who's standing up for him, defending him. Right? At that time, the mushrikun really couldn't do anything because his uncle was protecting him. And this person who has done so much for him, right? He's about to pass away. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sitting there and he's saying, oh uncle, just say the kalima. Just say it once and I will testify and I will stand in front of Allah. Ya Allah, he said it and put him into Jannah. But Abu Jahl and these other mushrikun were there and they said, you're going to leave the deen of your forefathers? And he didn't say the kalima. And that pain killed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, Ya Nabi of Allah, hidayah is in my hands. You cannot guide whoever you want. We give hidayah to who we want. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like this, He brings consolement after consolement to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, you do what is in your power and then leave the rest to us. And this is a lesson for all of us too. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us mukallaf of what is in our ability. We tie the camel and then we leave it up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there too. Right? And then the second surah that we did, Surah Nahl today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, Nahl means the honeybee. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in this surah a beautiful phenomenon, especially وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً نُسْقِيكُم مِمَّا فِي بُطُونِهَا. Just a small portion of it I'll touch on inshallah, I'll end off. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, talks about the cow. And He tells the Sahaba, He says, O Sahaba, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you not see the way وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً نُسْقِيكُم مِمَّا فِي بُطُونِهَا مِن بَيْنِ فَرْثٍ وَدَمٍ لَبَنًا خَالِصًا. That do you not see the cow where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dung, poop, and blood. And between those two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes out pure milk. Do you not look at the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And a beautiful point in this in this example is that the Mufassirun, right, again, going back, this is a Makki surah, right? And the trials and tribulations that they're going through, and the people that they're dealing with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there was an indication in here that, Ya Rasulullah, you're surrounded with filth, and you're surrounded with people who have hard hearts. But from between this, from this difficulty and this trial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take out something so pure, and He will make a way out for you. Right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He reminds insan again, He says, do you not ponder over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that how He makes a baby in the womb of a mother, right? مِن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا, that you knew nothing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way He structures, and he gives you eyes, and He gives you a heart, and He gives you hands, and He gives you feet, and He gives you a whole skeleton, and He gives you this nervous system, and He gives you these eyes that science even till today cannot go up to the depth of what this human body is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I made this in the womb of the mother. So how do you not ponder? And then at the end of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam, where He says, Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifa wa lam yakun min al-mushrikeen. He praises him, and he says, Ibrahim alayhi salam is a beautiful servant. Right? The long story that we know, test after test, trial after trial. No child, he wants a child and he's crying. He said, Ya Allah, I want a child. At the age of 86 or 90, he gets a child. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him to sacrifice that same child. And then he goes through trials and tribulations, right? Sacrificing. And Ibrahim alayhi salam passed all of these. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the point that I want to highlight, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next surah, in the next ayah, that شَاكِرًا لِأَنْعُمِهِ اجْتَبَاهُ وَهَدَاهُ إِلَى صَلَاةٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. That Ibrahim, he had this quality that he was grateful for all his blessings. He was grateful for his blessings. And I will end off with this point. Even in the last surah, alhamdulillah, Shaykh Zuhaib yesterday, Mawla Zuhaib, he talked about Surah Yusuf. That look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, this concept of shukr, right? Why do we fast in Ramadan? One of the hikmah is that we realize, what are the ni'mas that I have in my life? I have food, I have water. People don't have that. Yusuf alayhi salam, he's thrown by his brothers into the grave. And then those same brothers come and they find out that a caravan is here, they come and they sell him off. They say, oh, this is our slave, take him. Give us some money and take him. Imagine what Yusuf alayhi salam, that small boy, is going through. They're standing there, and the same brothers who threw him in the well are standing there saying, he's our slave and take him and give us money. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. And then he goes and he's sold as a slave. And then he finally gets some rest. The Aziz, the king, he gets him. And now another trial. The wife wants to fornicate with him. And what does he say in that moment? If it was me and you, I've been through a lot. You know, if it was me and you, I've been through a lot. Look at my situation. I was thrown in a well by my own brothers. Then I was sold as a slave, like I'm nothing. And now I'm in the palace, and I'm being tempted, and everything's locked, right? Nowadays, youth come, like, subhanAllah, right? They come, like, what am I, Shaykh, they come up with these scenarios, right? Shaykh, what am I supposed to do in this situation, right? But imagine Yusuf alayhi salam, he's saying, قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ, I can't do this. Why? أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَاي. That my Rabb has given me so many bounties. My Rabb has gave me so many bounties. What bounties? I was thrown in the well and I've been here, but still he's grateful. And then the long story, he goes into the prison, right? And he's there for how many? 80 years. 80 years. And even then, in that moment, he's grateful. And he tells those people who come, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this ilm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me so much. After 80 years, he gets out. And then he forgives his brothers. And he's sitting with his father, Yaqub alayhi salam. After all these years separated, and the father is sitting, he's asking, he says, son, tell me what happened. Tell me the story, because you haven't talked. He said, هذا تأويل رؤياي من قبل قد جعلها ربي حقا وقد أحسن بي إذ أخرجني من السجن. He said, oh my father, my Rabb, my Lord did so good to me. He kept me in such a good state. When he took me out of the prison. When he took me out of the prison, he left out the story completely. That his brothers threw him in the well, and I was thrown into jail. Everything. He's talking about the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed me. That I was taken out of the prison, and this was a bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my brothers and sisters, me and you in this month of Ramadan especially, it is a time to reflect on our blessings. Every night before we go to sleep, reflect on 5 blessings before you go to sleep. Wallahi, it will make a change in your life, inshaAllah. It will give you an appreciation for the small little things that you have in your life. I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us from those وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ, those who are grateful to their Lord and their Rabb. And He makes this Ramadan a means for us to get closer to Him. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.